Hello, everyone, and welcome to a wonderful new episode of the StudioMEcast. Today we have another special guest. This is Lance Parkin. He is a director, producer, filmmaker, and those of you in the Pittsburgh independent scene are sure to know him. He's hosted the Indie Oaks Film Festival a number of years. He was part of the 48-Hour Film Project in Pittsburgh, and he's also one of the people who headed up the Boonies, which we've mentioned a couple times with previous guests on this show, but we've got the man himself here, Lance Parkin. Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, dude. Thanks for inviting me. I love this place, so it's cool to be here.
Absolutely, yeah, because you've actually been here with Jeff Smee in particular to do like auditions for stuff.
We did auditions here. I think I helped shoot a scene forever ago for a movie here. They did something with us for the 48 ones, so yeah.
Well, that's you get around.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things that you've gotten around to was, I know you directed the Boonies. Were you a producer on it? What were your roles?
I was one of the three producers. I was the director, one of the two screenwriters, and I think it was a cameo in it. But yeah, mostly production, writing, and directing, yeah. And it helped me edit it and did the sound design. All the sound design.
Fantastic. So, first off, congratulations on completing a feature.
Yeah, it is a thing. It's something that takes a lot, but yeah, thank you.
I'm in post-production on my first feature right now.
First one?
Yeah, and what I want to talk with you about is, after completing your feature, what's sort of been the experience of, I guess, the expectations you had, or like, what's it like after you've completed your feature? What's been your experience with that?
I mean, it's it's like, it's slippery, I guess. I had a lot of positive feedback from people who are into the kind of thing that I made. Because the story of it was the guys were looking for a sort of low-budget horror movie. I have a background in low-budget horror, which I've sort of been working to move away from, but I pitched an idea, and they went for it. They funded it. So I made a very 70s style exploitation horror movie. Because 70s horror is probably my favorite, like, region of it, you know? So I did that, and it was a lot to get done, because we got it all done in, like, we got all the filming and stuff done in, like, months. But then it took, like, another, like, almost year of post. Because we went through, like, QC with a production company, so they quality checked everything we did, which meant getting notes back and then having to fix notes. And then when I thought it was done, they were like, we're going to put it in other countries, so I needed to go back to where all the English is, remove it, and then fill that sound with sound effects, because it was like, you know, a lot of it was done like, you know, a lot of it's like on-set audio, so you have like the labs and so a lot of your sound effects are also sort of really there. So cutting all that audio means you're getting these weird gaps.
Oh,
so I had to like Foley and like match that with like the real diegetic stuff that was there, you know?
Did you end up having that be the audio track for the English version as well, like those new sounds, or were you using the stuff that was originally in the mic?
Originally, a lot of the original mic stuff. I mean, I like Foley a lot, so I did a lot of Foley in the original version, but we had this like weird, there was like one track for like English stuff, and they had that and they were good with it, and then I was like, whoa, it's done. And then they told us, hey, how about doing like a whole nother one, dude? Like, about another 3 months of your life, man. Right. And I was like, all right, cool, let's do it then, you know. And that was like it was a great learning experience, because you're like learning how to like match reality and like blend, you know, because it's just like, it's like me and you walking down like a gravel thing together, and it's like, you know, when we're not like, we don't talk and you hear stuff, and then we talk and it cuts out, and I'm like trying to decide, like, is it better to just like leave all the mic audio and then just fill it with like birds and walking in between, or am I removing everything? It was like really tested my patience and my know-how a lot. But anyway, to answer your real question, it was a lot to get it made, and then it went out, and you know, I chalked some of it up maybe to like not really knowing what to expect, or not having familiarity with like the world of distribution. But I didn't love its release, because like there was just various factors sort of out of my control, out of the other producer's control even, that led to you know, wasn't like the financial windfall I had hoped for sure. And for some reason, we did well other places, but that movie got shredded on IMDb, dude.
Really?
Yeah, IMDb people do not like low. I mean, maybe it's because our distributor was like connected to Lionsgate, so I think maybe people saw it, hoping like, oh, this is like $1 million something movie, but no, bro, this is like a $60,000 movie, you know. So I don't know.
Wow.
So I think a lot of it was like who saw it when it came out versus who should be seeing it. I don't think I hit that like right, like match of it, because now that I'm part of a horror podcast called Neon Brainiacs, all those kinds of people are in love with it. You know, it's all about your audience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So-
And horror audiences, I'm hoping to join that proud lineup. I haven't actually watched a lot of horror films. It's the main genre I guess I have a blind spot in.
Really?
Fortunately, I have a few very good friends who have been showing me the good stuff
Yeah.
first. Yeah. And I'm like, this stuff is awesome. I
Yeah.
love this genre. It's so great. And I love how unique the horror, how much horror buffs, like they've got a unique spin to them. Like not everybody is super proud of their DVD collection, you know,
I know,
in
some
the
of those-
same way, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, I love 4K discs and I've been getting more into format stuff, but that's a very different kind of like, oh, I got this one with this special cover on it or the VHS version of like, and I see that a lot in horror.
Oh yeah, dude. They know all the like distribution companies and like who put out what year and these different like pressings and stuff. And I'm like, wow, man. You know, I'm a genre fiction guy in general. So I really like horror, but also like, you know, like sci-fi or high fan, like just I like all kinds of like stuff that is just outside the normal purview of the reality we experience every day.
Right.
Not that I don't love a good, you know, drama or like grounded comedy kind of thing, but yeah, those people, I mean, hey, they get really into it, you know, they love it. And I've always been more of the mind, I tend to like more, I like when horror is like either like super visceral and like you really feel like it's real and it kind of makes you like, wow, the world's a messed up place, or like weirdly surreal, you know, like not so much campy. But
Do you have a favorite horror film?
I mean, yeah, I do. I liked the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, the Exorcist. Really big fan of a movie called Green Room, which came out a few years ago, about a bunch of people that get like trapped in a green room. Yeah, those are some of my favorites, and they all have like, you know, similar through lines of being like weird, like I'm not weird, but being like a little intense, you know.
So
Hereditary, but
oh yeah, Hereditary. Yeah. So if you mentioned about like you know, expectations a little bit. What are some expectations? I'd say from like QC onward, like distribution and all that. What are some of the expectations you had that were I don't know if shattered is the right word. Maybe some of them were.
Some of
But
them
what
were,
were
yeah.
some of the expectations you had, and how'd that go?
I guess like some of the expectations were like, oh, you know, people are throwing around Lionsgate a lot in the distribution of our movie, you know, and some people seem very hopeful, others seem very like, oh, you know, this doesn't always go well, and I guess I expected like, you know, with me as a lowly like artist dude, you know, like I'm thinking, oh man, even like to like the Hollywood levels of money, little bit of that to me probably seems like a lot, you know, but I'm like, I was not taking into account, you know, what they call like creative accounting, where almost everything is sort of stacked to pay them back, even if they don't do a great job on their end, you know, the distributor, and you're just paying that back all the time, which sort of results in a net, you know, negative for you.
Right.
You know, so like, and I don't want to say, you know, I've met other people get a movie out and they make money and they feel really happy about it, but then I met other people who were just like me and will tell me, oh, every filmmaker gets screwed on their first movie, you know. So like I've heard like both sides where people like had like, oh, I didn't know what to expect and it was cool, I made some money, and then other people being like, I don't know what to expect and it was a real bummer, you know. And unfortunately I slipped into the other camp, you know. And it's a little bit of like the concept of, you know, the sacred object thinking, where you're like, where you live your life sort of always being like, when this happens, I'll be that, or like when X happens, Y will happen, and then everything will be all right, you know. And then X happens, and it doesn't go quite the way you expect. So now there's a new X to reach that Y, right? Am I making sense?
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's like we put so much work into films, and it's really tough to get to a point to get yourself to consider the possibility that it's not going to be okay when it's done.
Yeah.
Not just the quality of the film, because I think some people, it's pretty normal to worry if your film's going to be good, right?
Yeah.
But being like, oh, once I get my feature done, then all these other things are going to line up. I hear people say that all the time.
Oh, I thought it.
Or think it. Yeah. And fortunately for me, I've heard sort of echoes of your type of story, which is like, yeah, there's some stuff you got to look out for as well. And even if you look out for it, that doesn't mean you're going to see everything coming. It sounds like this experience could be, I guess, kind of demoralizing or disheartening, but I know that you've continued to do some work like with Locust Street and all that. You seem to be like continuing on and bouncing back kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Was there a period of dealing with your film and needing to recover from some of the negative things, or how did that go?
Definitely. And you share this space with Jeff Smee will definitely tell you I had hard time there. Because what also was weird was right around the same time it came out was like, the big hammer COVID happened to the world, right? So I watched like everybody recede into bubbles at the same time, which definitely like maybe intensified my like tendencies to recede, and I receded pretty well, I think. And I think it was a lot of just like, being like, man, do I have the fortitude to continue with this type of work, Like, do I have it in me to like keep doing it, And I think one thing I've really come to understand is like, I think what really will lead to success for people is like making sure it's like all about the love, like for it, because there was definitely an element to my movie. Like my movie was based on a short film idea that I sort of like tacked a movie on. So like my movie, I think, has a really awesome third act. Because it's really bizarre and it's really strange. And the second act is pretty good, but has a slower burn, which I kind of went for with my 70s thing, not really realizing that not so many people love slow burns all the time. But I really am proud of the third act, but that's because that was always the idea. You know what I mean? And I sort of just like tacked this other stuff on in the attempt. I was like, well, I'll do all this, just to make sure I get this first movie. And then that might have been the first big trip up, was being like, just to make sure I can do the just to have the thing, and it's like you have to make sure like that love is like in every moment of it, like my love for it occupied the last 45 minutes, and I think it shows. But
it
like
definitely, I have seen the film, and I like your assessment that you've laid out with like, this is how that's definitely how the film came across to me, with like it definitely slow burn, and then the last 40 minutes or so is when it's like really packed.
Yeah, and that's the movie.
Stuff. Yeah.
And, yeah, and if you picked it up on it, that's what you're picking up on, is like, that's where my heart was, My heart was in that part of it. And like the other stuff was like a means to the end, for lack of a better word, And part of it is also because, for the way that movie was going, we did only have like 3 months to write it and like get it all done. So I guess maybe with a little more time, I probably put a little more care maybe into the first part of it. But yeah, but I've learned that like it's just got to be about the love. Like your heart's got to be behind everything you're doing in that movie. Whether it's 6 minutes long or like 216 minutes long. Like it's got to be like every like bit of it. You got to make sure you're pouring yourself into it.
Now I have a question about the editing process for it. Like with your first rough cut of it versus the finished product. Did the runtime change appreciably?
Surprisingly, not really. It was sort of designed in the first place to be pretty tight. I was aiming for about think I was aiming for 90 minutes, and I think we got like 95 or 98 or something. I can't even remember what it is anymore. I don't think it's as much as 106. That'd be like an hour and 45, right?
Something like that.
Yeah. So no, it was like 96 minutes. I think we were aiming for 90. The script, I kept it like around 100 pages to try to do that. So most of what we wanted in there is definitely in there.
So you talked about, you're saying making sure that the love is there. And you've previously done a lot of horror and sci-fi, that kind of thing with Theo and the Professor.
Yeah, which all my heart's in that.
Yeah, and you've said, though, that, like you just said, you're looking at moving in another direction with stuff. What kind of content films are you looking at making?
I'm producing for Smee his film, which is a pure comedy, which has been fun to do. We actually shot 3 for me that, I'm only really just finishing the sound design for now. I let them sort of sit for a little bit. But we shot these like sort of micro things as an excuse to just do other things for myself. 2, I guess, would say it would be more along the lines of one's basically like a music video, sort of with a crime theme. One's definitely like a psychological thriller thing, straight up like real kind of thing. And the other one's like a, I don't know, surreal sci-fi thing. And they're all like under 6 minutes long. And it was part of just like this idea of like, I felt like so bummed about how everything turned out with Boonies. And I was like, it would be nice to just like try to make things that are just like purely focused on like the direction itself, like minimal dialogue, minimal everything. Just like, let's take everything and just like strip it back down to basics and go back to like understanding like why I even love this thing in the first place, like single scenes, maybe 2 scenes, and let Smee play and make them as cool looking as he could, and I'll just focus on like the direction of the scene and try to tell a story without telling a thing. Like it's just all action, all like direction, and I really like them a lot, and I called it as like a sort of working project. I called it like Cicada because Locust Street is our group, right? And I had this moment of like clarity, I guess, where I was reflecting on the cicadas that existed in the summer or 2 ago. I think it was 2021 or something. Well, they were like 17-year cicadas. I was thinking about 17 years before. I had like left my hometown. I'm not from Pittsburgh. I'm from a small town to do all this kind of stuff. And I was like reconnecting with like past like versions of myself who like, shedding the things that don't work and like keeping the parts of you that do. And I got like really into like this is like metaphor of like how a cicada sort of comes out of the ground, climbs a tree to ascend. That's its life cycle, and it's leaving these like shells of itself along the way, And we're Locust Street, so it felt cool. So that sort of became like what do you want to call it? Like an ethos, a new ethos for creativity for it, and those were fun. And I think what I'll finally do whenever Dead has finished rapping, I'm actually gonna do, I think, the first ever straight comedy I've ever done, like ever.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because there's definitely been humor throughout your work.
Yes.
And doing a straight comedy, that's a cool thing. So you're looking at, you've got thrillers going on, and which is, still a step away from horror, I guess.
Yeah, close, but
it's definitely its own thing.
Yeah,
so.
I tried to make the thrillers a little more grounded and like it's like theme and what's going on, but the comedy, I'm like, you know what, dude, like, well, I meet a lot of people seem to, one of the things they seem to say they like about me is my sense of humor, and I never fully explore. Theo is obviously a comedy show, but it's like people don't know it's like a show we made forever ago. I mean, 6 years ago, 7 now. I don't remember.
A while.
It's 2017, so whatever that is.
Something that I've always appreciated about Locust Street is the ability to just churn out a product. Like, because my thing for ages was just always like, man, I take forever to get like anything done, and or at least that's how I felt about it. But then things like the 48 and working here at the studio and other, like, being in marketing, stuff like that, where it's like very fast turnaround times and working that, and has definitely helped me with that. But that's something I've always appreciated about Locust Street is like, y'all make a lot of stuff. Like, you're already telling me, like, oh yeah, I've got these other 3 films. It's like y'all did this feature. Theo and the Professor was like, seemed kind of like a monster pun, but monster project.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. Total runtime's 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All 7 episodes, yeah.
And I bet that prepped you a lot for just being able to handle the production of a feature film as well.
Yeah.
And so, all right, cool. So you got all this going on and bouncing back from it. Was there a point at which the Boonies, like, maybe was gonna make you quit or anything?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because it sounds like you've been, like, falling in love with cinema again. Like, you've been like, why do I even like this? What do I love about it? And, like, it seems like I don't know if you've, like, really found it or, like, but that's what you're searching for.
Yeah.
Like, but how did, like, yeah.
That would be the arc of the last, like, year and a half for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, because like there's also, like, with COVID and spending a lot of time, like, in my house doing whatever, you know, I had this, like, nice cushion of unemployment because I was working at a tech company that, like, let us all go, and I had this, like, awesome unemployment thing going on. So I, like, got this taste of, like, doing nothing. to be crude about it, I was just like, wow, so this is what it's like for people that, no judgment, but this is what it's like for people that just don't have a lot of ambition. And I was like, it's kind of cool. Like, it's kind of like, had this, like, weird, like, you know, I've never considered myself much of a nihilist, you know, and, like, I had this, like, sort of weird flirtation with it where I was like, wow, like, if you don't care about anything, you don't have to worry about anything, you know. And it was like this, you know, it's like the snake in the apple, dude. Like, it's just, like, in your ear, like, man, you don't gotta do anything. You know, you just, like, hang out and make money and just, like, live a life. And I was like, maybe I had it all wrong, because I always thought I want to do this. I was never a person that had a conflict. I always wanted to be a storyteller my whole life. Ever since I was a little kid, right?
Was that always for movies and shows, or was it ever also, like, maybe writing a book, comics, anything?
When I was a kid, I used to draw a lot. So it was like, I want to do, like, comics and animation, and then it became being a writer. But, you know, I grew up in high school in the early 2000s in a small town, so it felt like doing movies meant having to go, like, New York or LA, which is a thing I found to be very afraid of. So I actually was a cartoonist for a while. I did conventions, had a web comic, had a self-published comic I pushed.
Oh, that's cool.
And all this stuff. And I just one day realized it didn't really do enough for me. I needed the motion, I needed the movement, you know. And around, like, I mean, it took a long time for me to get there. I was like 27 or 28 by the time I finally was like, I'm gonna make movies, and started to, like, got involved. That's why I cared so much about the 48. I got involved with it, met people, and through the 48 I met Smee. You know, we were both just, like, dudes that a guy who was like, we take, like, my friend Ed, this guy I was getting to know, put us both there as guys who knew no one. And I come into the place at, like, 8 a.m. and there's this dude with, like this, like, I don't know, like, gray, like, you know, it's the way his stuff always looks, like, leather strap, gray book bag, and he's drinking, like, a coffee in a bottle. And I was like, who is this dude, you know? And I just started bullshitting with him, you know. And then a year later we had our own team, and, like, ever since, like, he's been the only dude I work with, like, in film, you know. So, like, yeah, I always wanted to do this, and then I, like, was kind of like, maybe I was wrong, which is a real crushing feeling. Like, when you really entertain that feeling for the first time, especially when you do it, like, after 3.5 decades of being alive, you're just sort of like, man, like, that's a really sobering and painful thought to have, you know. And it has the ability to, like, like a weed to just, like, get in there and, like an invasive plant, and just, like, spread, you know. And, like, and then it's even worse whenever, like, the world shut down and all the people you used to working with are sort of living in their own islands, and, like, yet support network you usually have is sort of, like, forcibly not there,
right?
You know. So, like, yeah, it got in my head, like, it really did. But you know, that, like, part of that whole cicada thing, like, connecting with my young self, like, that young dude who, like, was hungry, was still in there, you know. Like, you know, like, I'm a big, like, comic dude. It's like I had my, like, black symbiote suit, Spider-Man, and like, you know, the red and blue boys, like, still in there somewhere, you know, trying to do, literally, you know, when I was a kid, I'd wear the costume. Like, it was, like, in there somewhere, just being like, no, man, like, this is not what we want to be. We got to figure out how to, like, get out of it. And through, like, support, of like my girlfriend and people in my life, like I started to realize that I was flirting with terrible choices. And, you know, I know him and John, past guests, had gotten frustrated with me because it took me a while. We shot these shorts. It took me longer than usual to get back around to finishing them because I usually do our post sound. But a lot of that was like the fear of like the vulnerability again. Like, do I want to be like, there was like this thing where I'm looking at these 3 stupid shorts that have a combined length of 15 minutes, less than one Theo episode, you know? And I'm like, how do I like, can I really go back to these and like put myself back out there like this, you know? And, you know, we did, you know, through their support and through like exploring my feelings. I encourage everybody should always let your feel, like never hold anything down. Like think about how you feel and really, really explore it, you know? And like ask, why do I feel this way, you know? Part of the problem is when people ignore how they're feeling. Mm-hmm. And through all of that, it was like, no, you know what? I do want to do this, and I want to do it better, smarter, and like with more like emphasis on like the people around me and how they can help me, you know? Like it's like sort of the way it worked.
I'm really happy to hear all that. It's like, I mean, I'm happy to hear where you've gotten to, is what I mean. It's like because your film, it was released like right during COVID, and it's like you had a lot of time to think about all this stuff, which is probably a good and bad thing.
For me, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but it's, you know, you've got your fighting spirit back, you know, you're doing these things, and you have ideas about how you want to grow with it. Like, I've done this before, I'm going to do more of this kind of thing. Do you have a script ready for like the straight up comedy? Any ideas you're kicking around? You don't have to like spoil them here or anything, but are you working on it?
I'm pretty happy with it. It's definitely the next thing we're doing after Dad. I guess I'd say I'm in the pre-writing of it, where I'm like getting everything together. Me and Matt, who helps me write stuff, we're gonna start writing it, I think, in the next month here. Now that because I'm almost like, now that I'm done with these like cicada shorts, I can focus on that while helping Smee do this. But it's a comedy about a guy that I'm a big Alexander Payne fan. Familiar?
A bit.
Sideways, Election, Bout Schmidt, Nebraska. Like he does like these like goofy characters in a really like grounded world. So it's about a dude who is going to take his girlfriend, now fiance, to a family dinner, and he doesn't like want his family to meet them, and like they just make his life hell, like horrible, and he's avoided them meeting to the point where he's already proposed, you know. And
oh wow,
yeah. So like, not only does he have to introduce her to all of them, he's also gonna have to admit that he's making that life choice, which they'll all make a terrible thing for him. And his whole family's a cavalcade of weird people, and it's all about this one day and the little vignettes that lead up to the big dinner, where everything, and like it's sort of framed like Dante's Inferno as he passes through the stages of hell. Yeah, because it's his own personal hell.
I like the imagery or inspirations that you're talking about here, whether it's Dante's Inferno with, like, you know, having the significant other meet the family, or the thing you were talking about with the cicadas of, you know, rebirth and transitions of life and all that. It's very poetic. Are you like much of a reader yourself?
Yeah, I was. I don't read as much now, but through my teens and 20s, read a ton. I actually wrote poetry as a teenager.
Okay, that was going to be my, I was like, start with the soft, are you a reader? And then we're like, are you a poet? Because I think I can tell. Sometimes I'm like, I should get back into poetry just for fun. But I was, you know, as a teenager from 99 to 2003, like high school years, definitely had a post poems account. I remember this website, I don't know how old you are, but had a post poems. Definitely wrote poems for girlfriends, like all that corny stuff. But yeah, I'm very much a metaphorical thinker. I think all the time in metaphors. I'm always like, you know, like, I don't know if being Jungian is too far with it, but I'm creating an archetype and like a metaphor for everything I think, to like sort of collect my thoughts into like this imagery that I can like adapt and relate to and translate easier to other people to maybe inspire or like understand them. You know, it'll do a lot of people tell me what they're going through. I try to like collect it into like an image or a metaphor, you know. That's fantastic. I can see like that's something that, you as a storyteller, whether it's starting with like comics or animation, drawing, and then poetry, and through film, where you've been able to like find that love again for like why you want to do this. And even though the Boonies, it's wasn't the experience you were hoping for, it's cool to see like at the core of it, you've still got that red and blue guy, and all that. And this is what a lot of it is. It seems
really
like.
is, dude. It's like, I mean, the idiom is the most true thing ever. Like, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And like, I think the most inspiring narrative of all, of any of them, and any story or anything, is always the narrative of like a character that just gets like put through it all and like gets like beat down so much, but always gets back up. I always think that's like the best kind of story, and I always love it. Always, never fails. And like, so of course I'm going to like take that prism and like run my life through it, because I love that. I've loved it my whole life. So like it becomes an inspiring narrative. I'm like, well, I'm going through it, so all these characters, both fictional and real, that do it are the most inspiring thing ever. So why can't I just be like them? So maybe someday, if I ever make anything out of myself, again, no expectations now, but if, then I can say I did it too,
And it sounds like also with the experience, like you learn the hard way with the Boonies.
Ooh, yeah.
But the next feature you do, whenever that is, like you're probably not going to go through at least the same things as last time. Like there might be other issues and all that, but it's not going to be the same problems, at least with distribution and all that.
Because you never, never ever, you never want to make the same mistakes. Like then you're just not learning, and I think the big takeaway is, we ever do that again, good luck convincing Smee to ever make another feature anytime soon. But
I know that.
But if we ever got to that, to do that again, I think a lot of it would be done under our discretion and our terms, instead of like through third parties or through like other like means. I think it would be a lot of our like our drive like carrying us through it.
And even with the negative experiences of the Boonies, like, and even with distribution and stuff with Lionsgate, that's still a recognizable name that you can, the next time you go to, sell a film or get a deal, you have that as like, I've done something with Lionsgate, and immediately it changes the way people look at you, like, and can help with what you're gonna end up leaving that room with. Yeah. So
it's true. I mean, I get, again, like, I also don't want to create a perception like I'm not thankful for the experience, or like thankful for the two dudes that like afforded me the experience through their money. I don't know what happened to them. I hope they got return on their investment. Oh God, but like, I don't want to create the idea that I'm not thankful for, because I absolutely am, because of A, the experience, and B, it has helped, like, even in small ways, like in the Pittsburgh area here, like having write-ups like we had in the Post-Gazette, or like write-ups we had in the city paper. It makes it a lot easier when you like call a location and you're like, hey, I'm a filmmaker, you can vet me, you can find articles about me in the city paper or Post-Gazette, and I'm trying to shoot at your church or your this or that. It makes it a lot easier to have that conversation, because then they're like, oh, this dude didn't just like, he's not just coming in here with a camcorder and is going to screw up my building, Right. So like, there's a lot of little inroads through the experience that now that I'm back and more active, I'm finding that maybe it's a little more beneficial than I expected,
It's funny how sometimes a negative experience can give you more credibility in something, not just with film.
It was anything.
Yeah. But
best way to learn.
Well, I try to learn things the easy way, but I've not been immune.
You can never prepare for what is going to happen to you, and you can definitely, like, one thing, you never prepare for the actions of other people.
That's true.
There's people who tried to make the production of Boonies harder on us, and it's like, why? Like, why are you doing this? And like, you just never. So? You just like never. It's just it's just like people are working with us who just had their own issues going on in their lives that just like made decisions that just impacted the production. You're like, why are you doing these things? But you can't do anything about it. Like, it's not your problem. Like, people will act the way they act. They're going to have a whole lifetime of experiences or maybe innate things going on in themselves that you just can't control. And they're just going to do it, dude. And all you can do is manage yourself, and manage the people that you care about and support you, and just be as supportive of the people as possible, you know, including yourself.
Yeah, one of the things that's helped me with that kind of thing is even when I'm having a bad day with a film, you know, whatever that looks like, whether it's during post-production or on the day, whatever, at least at some point I find myself just saying, even when things aren't going well, I'm lucky to be making a film right now.
Yeah.
Because I could be doing plenty of other things that I'd rather not do.
Yeah, man.
You know, I'd rather have a bad day doing this than a good day doing something else sometimes, you know. And a lot of that is, you know, you try to not have to tell yourself that a lot, you know.
Yeah.
But
you gotta. You know?
You gotta have a plan or something that you do, or it will defeat you. You just be like, forget this. And, you know, it's one of those kind of scary things to think like, well, is there a point where some people should quit? You know, like, I don't know. I don't think that's really for me to answer for anybody but me. And the answer is no, you know,
right.
But, yeah, it's,
I mean, if you're showing any like iota of like improvement, you know, at all, then no. I mean, just like at all, like whether it's like personal growth or in like the project itself, or like like you're just improving at all in any way. No, you know, like you're either growing or you're dying, you know, like it's just like there's no in between, you know.
It's like if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah, right, exactly. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it, man, for sure. And it's just like you can only plan things so far, and it's, you know, what's another thing about the new Locust Street, quote unquote, Locust Street 2.0, is a stronger focus. You know, we got guys like John on board, Jamie Chalmers, like guys that Smee and I view as people who are like better at planning than us, to try to make us accountable, because we are definitely the kind of dudes who like, I mean, a lot of Theo was like, yeah, I think we know what we're doing, and we just like did it, you know. But like working with them and being like, oh, this is how people who like think, like who like really like plan. Like I have a ability to like plan on the fly really well. I have a ability, like natural ability for time and like resources. But to have somebody like Jamie or John who's like, hey, here's a spreadsheet, guys. How about we like put everything in it, and then like everyone knows what you two are thinking, and we're like, oh, weird.
Yeah. Oh, we just upgraded to the Bronze Age. How about that?
Really, like, yeah, and doing that stuff has been really cool. So like, definitely planning is important. I will say it's been it's actually made filmmaking more fun, because like there's a lot less stress, because like we have a better idea of what we're doing, you know. Because like a lot of our meetings now, you know, I love like pontificating, obviously, and talking about asking questions, but I don't want to be the guy typing in the spreadsheet. I hate it, you know. And like us doing it and having people who are good at that stuff, who can help me answer the questions, and then have people who can like do those kinds of calls, you know. And Matt, a longtime partner, is like good with like better with money, and like being like, I don't think that's a great idea, you know. And like, so planning is really important for sure. You always want to plan, but you always got to be aware that you can't plan everything, so you also need to be flexible. That's like the real big balance, you know, like the real tightrope there.
I always found that when I planned stuff, like I'd show up on the day and then everything would have to change, right? You know, sometimes. Yeah. But in a weird way, it's not exactly just that those plans were thrown out the window. It still helped me to operate on that day.
Yeah.
Like, you know, or I guess I'm phrasing this a little weird as like past tense or whatever, but it's like, yeah, like when you plan stuff, filmmaking is a lot of problem solving.
Oh, yeah.
And you have a plan, you have an idea, you might have it all the way down to storyboards or animatics and all that, but then when you get there, there's something that you have to deal with, but the planning helps inform that.
Exactly.
And if for nothing else, it just makes you more familiar with the material so that you're less likely to make a mistake while you're trying to solve a problem.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wait, no, they're supposed to be holding that thing that they're giving the character in the next scene. You know, like you just, it gives you more familiarity with the material. So.
Yeah, man. Yeah, planning is super important. It's just make sure you leave a little bit of room for flexibility, you know? I mean, like we have a plan for this weekend, And I walk out there and Smee's in there. On the way here, I found out some info. It's going to blow it up. So me and him are going to have to solve a problem as soon as I'm done with
There
it.
There we go. Yeah. Do you have a personal philosophy on, like, I guess, the role that art plays in, I guess, society in general?
Wow. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but I have a lot of flowery things to say about everything.
Yeah.
So the role that art plays
Yeah.
in society, it's a good question.
Sorry, it's a huge, big question out of nowhere, but yeah.
Don't worry, I can handle it. I
All
just
right.
good thing you edit these, so I can take a sec to collect on it. I mean, I think it can act as a mirror, for sure. Definitely can understand what values are at play in like a time and place. What values are competing for dominance at a time and place. What people seem to think is repulsive or appealing, you know, the mirror aspect of it's huge, you know, whatever they say about art imitates life or whatever. But I also think it can serve, like, you know, it's like a snake tail thing, like, but at the same time, I feel like it can help inform people toward, like, and make change in people's lives. Like, you know, you can introduce, like, people were so susceptible to the concept of a story, right? Like, it's probably been one of our most bonding things as a species our whole life, sitting around the fire, like, telling stories, coming up with explanations for what's going on, these myths that are always like, you know, whatever the narratives change, they're always like similar themes, you know? So, like, you can help inform people about their own lives, or maybe, like, you know, sometimes brainwash people, but just it's sort of the dark side of the point I'm making. But you can also inspire people and create and push change through, you know, because whatever reason, I don't really know exactly why, we take so much the stories. And I think a lot of it is that idea of, like, the brain liking a metaphor, or like liking an intangible thing to be made sort of tangible, you know. So you can take like a moral or a message, or you can connect people. You can make people even understand each other, because a story that two people can get into from two different walks of life with a universal message, they can start to see themselves in the same thing, you know. So it, like, can be used to connect people and create change just as much as it can also be examined to be like, oh, if I'm like an alien or like or I'm like an archaeologist from like 2,000 years from now, and I'm like looking at like these movies, and I can like figure out what's going on with these people based on the messages they're telling, because we do it now with stories from forever ago, you know. We try to figure out what was going on with these people based on what they were telling each other, or like what they thought was like good or appealing, you know.
You strike me as someone who probably gets into history a lot.
Yeah, I'm into history.
You're definitely thinking in the context of time and generations and all that. Does history inspire any of your work? Like I guess literally, like, oh, here's a story about the Vikings from way back when, and that's something that work in.
Theo and the Professor is pretty rooted in a lot of it. Because I'm like real big into world building. Like, my favorite ideas, don't have the budget for it today. Theo has it. Other ideas way in the back of my brain that maybe hopefully someday I'll get to do. Favorite ideas are ideas that have a bunch of lore, right? Like, I like that kind of stuff, right? And Theo and the Professor's teeming with lore, and we dropped little things all through the 7 episodes because, like, we had a plan. Like, if it did well, if we could make more, we could have made that thing like a real TV show with like lots of stuff going on. And a lot of it is like, because the whole idea is like clandestine group that like has been around forever. A lot of like real historical elements are like woven through it. Like a lot of like World War II and the Industrial Revolution has like, because like, you know, the Theo character has like ancestors that at the time of the show he doesn't know about, that like sort of, so he's part of like a lineage that the professor who's like 200 years old has known most of them. So like there would be an exploration of these different time periods and how like these different versions, like these different ancestors were sort of a different version of what a guy like him would be like in different eras, and how those eras would sort of like pervert or enhance that familial personality, you know? Like,
Absolutely.
so like, yeah, it did. I guess, yeah. Because Matt's a big history dude. I think that was Matt's like major.
Okay.
That was his
Cool.
major in college, I think.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
I think so. So like a history, social studies kind of thing.
Fantastic. I should have him on sometime. That'd be great.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He talk a lot.
Absolutely. So, have you ever thought about down the road? Well, you talked about Theo and the Professor, like, you know, seeing about having that get picked up as a show by a network or something. Have you thought about, and maybe this was the goal with the episodes that you've done, but have you thought about revisiting Theo and like maybe making like a new kind of like, I guess, revamped pilot?
Absolutely. I mean, to the point where it's written, and we talked about making it. Like we talked about making it, but then with Dad, and I just want to try the announcement. Like I have a feeling, I don't have it on any good authority or anything, but I have a feeling it might be a thing we try to do next year, because like it's already written. We were all into the idea. It was more just like the scope of the project at the particular point we were at, whether that was something we wanted to do, and it just kind of was like maybe not right now yet, you know. But it is like written, and it's like a full 40-minute pilot instead of like doing this whole series. It's like one long episode that would be its TV runtime. That like the events of the YouTube/Amazon show still apply, but it is also sort of a fresh start where like, you know, I'm now a professor now at the college with them, or like cohorts working. So like it has like this like soft, and the Jeff character that we like sort of become friends with by the end is now a main character, and like it's sort of skipping like a plan we had to bridge there. We're just like, we'll just skip the bridge, and now we're just going to be like at what would have been the third season, and that's now the new idea, you know? And like, so yeah, it's out. We want to do it. We just don't know when or how or what.
You definitely got to explore and develop the concept for this show, and with the way that you've continued to just, I guess we've had your story arc, you know, with the Boonies, and even like before that and stuff with you hosting like film festivals here in Pittsburgh and all that. It's like you've always, I've known you, I guess, primarily as someone who is giving back to the filmmaking community. Like that's how I've known you the most. And I think it's just great that you've also like you've continued now to do your thing, you know, and make the stuff for you. It's like it's good to give back to your community and stuff, but I think it's really phenomenal that you've been like, you know, going ahead with these projects, and you've got plans for more, and you've got people around you that you're going to make them with. So I'm just I'm super stoked.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And part of it was like thinking like, you know, maybe it is time to do things for me. But that being said, you know, I'm still in the process of figuring out what it's going to look like, because my relationships are still very strong with the Oaks. Because I helped run the place for a while. The owners love me. I'm great friends with them. I have, and this time, not just trying to take it on myself, again, spreading out support amongst people around me. I don't know what it's going to look like yet. I'm still sort of formulating it, because I'm trying to evolve the concept away from film festivals, because I'm less interested in the drama of awards and judging, but I am thinking about really getting back into that stuff with a strong focus on the collective community and connecting.
I have a question for you. When you're judging a film festival, is there an award that is typically the hardest to like figure out?
Directing. Yeah. I mean, I don't judge them. The judges judge them.
Oh, okay.
I facilitate judges. You know, it just comes down. Sometimes you hear people like shit talk the awards, and they like blame you, and you're like, dude, I just picked the judges, and the judges picked it. I just was the one like moderating their discussion, you know. But they do seem to have the most trouble with directing, and like, what does that mean? Right. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's actually something I've talked with a lot of people about, because I mean, people ask me like, how do you judge directing? And like, it's there. I haven't come up with a short answer for that. It just becomes a really long, interesting for me conversation. Yeah. You know.
I mean, my answer to the judges, for what it's worth, I guess, has always been, to try to keep it simple, is like, how cohesive does like everything going on in this come together in the end? Like, does it feel like there's an intention and a thoughtfulness for every element to like coalesce into a point, like the music, the performance, the pacing. Like, does it all feel like? Does it feel to you when you watch this that someone or some, one, or like, is there a central mind or minds? Like, is there a centrality to it that is pushing everything together? Does it feel that way, or does it kind of just feel like some of this stuff was like thrown in? Like, is the music just kind of thrown in because they had it, or like, is like, does it feel when you watch it like there was a voice that is running through all of it, or not? And like, that's kind of what I usually say. And sometimes, a great collaborative, because you can never tell what's going on behind the scenes. Sometimes a really great collaborative group, like, can be mistaken for one voice. Sure, I get that, but I mean, that's the best answer I can give somebody who's trying to figure that out.
Yeah, and I think that's one reason why a lot of the time, some people say, oh, well, whatever is getting like the best, like first place or best picture is going to get best director. It's like, well, not always. And then people, well, why not? And it's, but yeah, that's interesting that directing's the most, like, sort of typically the most, not always, sure, but
for the most part though, it's usually been like, people will be like, I don't really know how to like if, unless they've done it before, or unless they're strong in their like film like acumen, they might be like, I don't really know how to judge this one.
Yeah, because even like a lot of directing, depending on how the director works, can affect the performances of the actors a lot. Like, that's a big part of like the way I direct, is sort of being the head of the acting department.
Yeah, I'm a little more focused on like acting and pacing. Tends to be my thing, and I leave a lot of shots up. Like, I mean, I have shots in mind, but I can do a lot of things. Like, I just want it to kind of be like this, and then Smee will like come up with a better way to do it. Like, so like, I relate. I'm sort of an actor's director myself.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, I'm like really big into like the final presentation of it all, like the way it's gonna edit and like look. Like, that's why like doing the music video one I just did has been really fun. Yeah, it's like a lot of that. But I relate to you, me, and plus I'm very like, I'm like the directing mind where it's like 50% of directing is what you had in mind, and the other 50% is like listening to everybody else and being like, oh, that's cool, that enhances this, or no, that's actually going to distract from what I want to do. And like weeding out ideas and using the ones from everybody around you that feel like they're enhancing what you're up to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's I think I don't know, someone attributed this quote to Christopher Nolan, but I haven't heard him say it. He said, being a director is basically being mediocre at every aspect of filmmaking. And which is kind of funny.
It's me a little.
But I was like, oh, that actually kind of makes a lot of sense as like a description, because so much of what you're doing is communicating with the department heads and figuring stuff out, like collaborating with someone who may be a lot better than you with a camera, figuring that out.
I relate on that one. But no, actually, it's a great, I don't know if he said it either, but if he did, that's a hell of a quote, because it's kind of true. Yeah. Makes you feel a little like exposed under these lights.
But yeah, I mean, that's one reason why it's called directing, not controlling. You know, it's like an actor might just straight up say, I'm not saying that line. Yeah. And you're like, well, we rehearsed it though, and you read the script and said it was cool, and they're just like, figure something out, and it's like, well, you gotta kind of figure that out and work through it with them, and if like, fortunately I haven't had that particular experience, but I've heard plenty of people say it does happen to them.
Yeah, it happens. You want to make sure, and two, you like want to,
it's gonna happen.
Yeah, and you want to foster an environment too where people feel like heard. And contributing, because if people feel like they're owning whatever they're doing, it's just going to help the whole thing,
Yeah, it's and weeding out the ideas is also like it can be difficult, I think, to make people feel heard, because like something that like I might be on a shoot and someone's like, oh, why don't we do it here, this scene here by this pathway or something like that, and I look at it and I'll be like, okay, well, we can't like get a crew to go around here. We're trying to go for longer shots and all that, and there's not really and the background is going to be terrible. So like, you like this path, but it's terrible to shoot on, and like, but then you don't always have time to say all that. And even if you say all that, that might just kind of like make them feel like an idiot or something. Like, like, and just be like, So it's like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going over here. And it's like, I have a reason.
You got to get good at saying no, you know,
Yeah.
and being confident in those boundaries. Like,
Yeah. But it's, I think it can, like, I don't know how much it depends on, like, you versus the person that you're saying no to make them feel heard.
yeah.
You know, but I guess that's where the, you know, the craft of filmmaking comes in. You know? It's just
And the art of saying no. Like, there's an art to it, how you do it and how you deliver it, you know, to not seem like a jerk or something.
Right. Yeah. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation a lot.
Me too.
I've known you for like ages now, but it's nice to be able to sit down with you and talk to you more as well. And thank you so much for being my guest today.
Yeah, thanks, dude. I warned you. I could talk.
Oh,
You know, I love this kind of stuff. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, I'd love to have you on again sometime. So
Just say when.
Awesome. Well, I'll probably reach out to you on like when some of your shorts are done, or if you've got something that you're like you want to promote, just let me know and we'll see if we can get you in there. You know? So hey everybody, if Lance wants you to be able to follow him or anything like that, there's going to be a description links in the description below, so that way we don't have to like name all of our URLs and stuff. So get in the description, get in the comments, where do you disagree with. All right, cool. Thanks again, Lance.
Thanks, dude. Much appreciated.
Absolutely.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you want to start your own podcast, why wait? Reach out to us at StudioME.me, and I hope you hear me again soon.